or a person on my team has a certain level of leads or contacts that they can work. And if they start working or getting more leads than they can support, you start to see quality of service diminish. So really what that is you go, okay, like I have X number of people on my team. This is the optimal number of leads that one person can work in a day or in a month or a week. And then you never go over that because it'd be irresponsible to go over the number of leads that you ultimately are giving to each person. My name is John Bowler, and this is the None Size Fits All podcast, where every week I'll be sharing my candid thoughts on what's happening in the real estate industry. Good afternoon. Welcome to the None Size Fits All podcast. My name is John Bowler, co-founder of Grid Consulting. Today we're going to be talking about service levels, capacity, and how that relates to real estate and lead gen. So I spent a lot of time thinking and talking about this topic. I guess I'll give context here. In a former life, I was working, hundreds of thousands of leads and, had lots of people working those leads. So, we're working leads on behalf of real estate professionals. And what we really learned was like there was this need, like how do you control the level or quality of service that you're providing when you're running these kind of large teams, right? Large teams and lots of leads, but also making it so that you're appeasing your SLA, so your response time, to making sure that people are happy and conversions are high. So what you come up with is you really come up with this idea of capacity. You start coming up with this concept that I or a person on my team has a certain level of leads or contacts that they can work. And if they start working or getting more leads than they can support, you start to see quality of service diminish. So really what that is you go, okay, like I have X number of people on my team. This is the optimal number of leads that one person can work in a day or in a month or a week. And then you never go over that because it'd be irresponsible to go over the number of leads that you ultimately are giving to each person. I've done that. Like my whole career is like, how do you actually sleep at night and make sure that things aren't going to break? You start tracking this concept of capacity and you start looking at it as, can people support this number of leads? So real estate professionals, I'm running a team or I'm an individual agent and I'm buying a zip code or I'm buying different ad packages from different companies. I have to clearly know what is the capacity metric for me and for each individual person on my team. And if I then start giving too many to them, I have to be able to pull it back. And the reason why is because at a certain point, you're going to see diminishing returns on your margins when you're overextending the person. So think of it as the thing you hear regularly about cherry picking. Like my people all cherry pick or they're not chasing the leads anymore. Well, it's often because they're getting too many and you yourself at a buffet, if you don't like a section of your food, you're just going to take your plate back and you're going to refill because that's what you can do. And so the same thing happens and it creates this behavior of cherry picking because there's an unlimited supply of opportunities that are coming their way. So what is that number? Is the number 15? Is it 40? Is it 50? How many leads should one individual person get? That's really a decision that the leader has to be able to make and then track it because you're going to see at a certain moment, like that's just too many and the person's going to start to basically highlight that behavior of cherry picking. Myself, I've always thought about 20 leads per person. 20 leads per person, it seems very reasonable. You hear a lot of people say 25 and 30. Heard people say 40. Most recently, I have a handful of clients that have said 15. And 15, that's bold. That means you're running a very efficient team and people are going to have to work those leads the way that they actually should work those leads because it's a very big and large investment that you're making in generating. How does that work long term? Well, like working new leads, there's also the old leads, and the old leads are the ones that you're chasing. So, are you thinking about it just as I create X number of opportunities per person each month, or at a certain point, I'm now getting this kind of leads that are coming from past months, and do I start to actually decrease the number of leads I'm getting per person once they've been on my platform for 4 months? That's probably what you should do. I mean, at a certain point, like if a lead's going to close in 60 days or 6 months, that means that if I'm truly monitoring capacity, I have the ability to reduce the number of leads that I'm working on the net on the front end because I have all this other stuff from previous months. Another way that I compare this, like why do you care so much about this? Well, if you're going to spend all this money on leads and leads are going to cost what they do, you should be trying to optimize for your marketing budget and you should be tracking it so that when I buy 25 new leads, I got to probably hire one more person. Or it could work the inverse of that, where I'm not generating enough leads for the people on my team, and I should be able to have this capacity metric truly dialed in. So comparing it to one of the job that when I moved to Seattle, I was a waiter, and when I was waiting tables, there's this moment as a server where you get overwhelmed, and you're overwhelmed, and you're running all over the place, and like it's chaos. Is probably sounds familiar to a lot of people. Like there's this moment where you're trying everything that you can to provide great service to people, but you're running to like the kitchen, and then you're running to this table, and then this table is high maintenance, and then this person needs their check, and there's all these different things that you're trying to do. And what you hope is that the manager that is leading your initiative, you hope that they've thought enough about this concept of capacity related to your service. So I go into a 3-star restaurant, you're often going to see service is not as good, and the person, like, they're trying really hard, but they might be waiting on 12 tables when really their capacity is 8. And if I'm the manager, that's my fault because I was the one that didn't staff and add one additional person. Let's change that to a 5-star dining experience. The 5-star dining experience, the person is eloquent. They're walking around. They're moving at a pace that seems reasonable. They're not sweating. They don't look stressed out. And the reason why is because that manager or that company or that restaurant has really figured out this concept of capacity. Each person can support X number of patrons. So it's the same thing in any business that's running lead gen. Like, it's not the person's fault if you're just giving them more and more and more. It's really your fault because you were the one that didn't plan for it and have an understanding and track it with data that basically said this is good or bad. And so capacity in real estate is one that everyone should regularly be tracking. It's not crazy math. It's literally like X number of agents, X number of leads, multiply that, and that's what your agent capacity is. It gets a little more complicated when you introduce things like ISAs, because ISAs now actually give your people more capacity because they're not spending time on all of these like chasing activities and all of these things. So we ourselves, we love the concept of capacity because we think it's actually where you can expand your margins, B, not spend as much money on lead gen, but C, give the consumer the best experience possible, which is then going to help with your conversion as well as the service kind of representation of your brand. And that will allow you to sleep well at night knowing that you're basically putting your people in a position to both succeed and provide the consumer with the best outcome of good service. Feel free to drop me a note with any comments or questions regarding capacity. We have a lot of strong opinions on this one and would love to help. Also, check us out on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and write us a review if you like us. Thanks.